Aaron Watson was a British journalist and writer. He was born in 1850. In 1871 he married Phoebe Gibling. In 1873 he founded a weekly paper in Newcastle called The Critic. After it folded he worked on the Boulmer Gazette, the Newcastle Chronicle and others. He was a member of the Savage Club, a gentleman's club in London founded in 1857 by the poet Richard Savage. He died in 1926. We will cover his 1892 novel For Lust of Gold. The story is the narrative of Frank Boulmer, cousin to Walter Raleigh himself, who speaks of his acquaintance to Anthony Goddard, an old sailor settling in Frank's home of Critch. Anthony loves to speak to Frank of his own privations suffered many years ago at the hands of the Spanish Inquisition in South America. Eventually he shows Frank a beautiful map, which he says shows the way to El Dorado, or as they call it, Manoa. Despite his age, he is still itching to go back and seek for it. At this time, Walter Raleigh is imprisoned not too far from the Boulmer estate, but soon he is liberated on sufferance by King James. Expected to find El Dorado, lose his head. Frank introduces Raleigh to Goddard and his map, and they resolve to lead an expedition to go find Manoa. But the Spanish ambassador is poisoning the mind of King James against Raleigh, so their fleet must sneak out at night under cover of fog. Frank accompanying them along with his friend Will, who lightly poisons an old woman to get fired from his apprenticeship to get on board instead. What follows is a way too overlong segment of the fleet trying to find and take a gold mine near the Orinoco, and taking the Spanish colonial town of San Toma. This segment, being based on real history, cannot go too overboard, and its main purpose is to leave Frank behind with Anthony and Will and a few others, having to try and find their way back to England on their own. Along the way they meet a tribe of natives called the Arawakai, and their chief Karapani, who used to serve on Goddard's ship as a boy. Here Will falls in love with a woman he spends barely any time with before she gets killed, as they help defend the natives against the Spanish. The Arawakai decide to leave after the battle to where they will not be molested by the Spanish, and leave the story permanently being mostly a temporary distraction. Frank and co, after marching through the jungle for ages, finally reach the city of Manoa, or Sotuta, where Anthony Goddard is taken for Manco Capac, risen from the dead to reclaim his city from the foreign tribe subjugating his people. Tuniech, the current king doing all the subjugating, would have Goddard and co roasted as a sacrifice to the sun, but a girl named Yakuna stops him and offers them sanctuary with her and Balarca, the sun priest. Yakuna believes Frank is a long-lost brother come back from the dead with Manco Capac from the Blessed Islands, to come and free their people, and he doesn't have the heart to tell her the truth. In the meantime, the Spanish find the city thanks to Anthony's lost map, and the people believe it is Manco Capac's army come to free them, making things awkward. Seeing Tuniech get hacked to bits by the Spanish, after he barely showed up in the book, Frank and co escape to the ancient burial grounds of the kings of Manoa, where an evil priest who was in the book even less than Tuniech leads the Spanish after them, and Yakuna gets shot and dies. Frank and co escape and randomly come across Frank's brother, who is looking for them there after their mother's prophetic dream, and they return to England after having spent less than 100 pages in Manoa, mostly in 2 rooms.